The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display flickered to life, showing the impossible. A single human vessel, the Terran Defiance, hung in space against the backdrop of a dying star, facing down the entire Krithax war fleet. 300 warships, each capable of glassing a continent, arrayed in perfect battle formation. And one small, battered frigate from Earth refusing to move. Hannah Chen stood at her console aboard the Council observation ship, her fingers trembling as she adjusted the scanner frequencies. "This can't be right," she whispered, though every species in the galaxy knew humans were prone to suicidal bravery. This was something else entirely. Evan Rodriguez, the human ambassador to the Deathworld Alliance, watched the display with an expression that unsettled the alien dignitaries surrounding him. Not fear, not resignation, something that looked almost like pride. "Ambassador Rodriguez," High Counselor Zirthal's crystalline voice chimed through the chamber. "Your species has 12 hours to withdraw that vessel. The Krithax have made their ultimatum clear. They will destroy the Terran Defiance and then proceed to Earth. You cannot win this confrontation." Evan turned slowly, his movements deliberate in the low gravity. "Can't we?" The display zoomed in on the human ship. It was scarred from a dozen engagements, hull plating mismatched where field repairs had been hastily welded. By any military standard, it should have been decommissioned years ago. Yet there it sat, directly in the Krithax invasion corridor, broadcasting a simple message on all frequencies. None shall pass. Hannah had studied human history as part of her xenoanthropology doctorate. She'd read about Thermopylae, about the Alamo, about countless last stands where humans had chosen death over retreat. She'd thought she understood. But understanding intellectually and witnessing it unfold were entirely different matters. "The Deathworld Alliance has pledged neutrality in this conflict," Counselor Vashitor rumbled, his massive form shifting uncomfortably. "Earth is not a member world. We cannot intervene. We're not asking you to," Evan replied quietly. "We're buying time. For what?" Hannah found herself asking, unable to contain her curiosity. What could possibly justify this sacrifice? Evan's smile was grim. Hope. On the display, the Krithax fleet began its advance. Weapon systems charged, creating cascades of energy that lit up Hannah's sensors like supernovas. The Terran Defiance didn't retreat. Instead, it activated every weapon system it possessed, pathetic compared to what faced it, and opened fire. The first Krithax battleship exploded spectacularly. Then another. And another. Impossible! Zirthal's crystalline structure resonated with shock. Their weapons shouldn't penetrate Krithax shielding. Hannah's fingers flew across her console, analyzing the data. They're not using conventional weapons. Those are kinetic penetrators. Tungsten rods accelerated to near light speed using the ship's entire reactor output. She looked up, eyes wide. They're burning out their own systems to generate enough velocity. Suicidal, Vashitor breathed. They're killing themselves to take down a few ships. Not just a few, Evan corrected, his voice carrying an edge that made several counselors flinch. Watch! The Terran Defiance continued its assault, now surrounded by enemy fire. Explosions bloomed across its hull, but still it fought. Hannah watched in horrified fascination as the human crew executed maneuvers that should have liquefied them through sheer G-forces. They were using their ship like a weapon, ramming into Krithax vessels when their ammunition ran dry, triggering reactor overloads when weapons failed. They're buying minutes, Hannah said, her voice barely audible. At most, they're buying minutes. What difference can it make? Evan's expression softened slightly as he looked at her. Everything, Dr. Chen, they're buying everything. A new alarm blared through the chamber. Hannah's console erupted with contacts. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Emerging from the far side of the star came the rest of humanity's fleet. Not the scattered defense forces everyone had expected. Not the meager ships of a young spacefaring species. An armada that dwarfed the Krithax war fleet. Vessels of every conceivable design, from massive battle carriers to nimble destroyers. And at their center, something that made Hannah's breath catch. The Last Stand. Earth's first dreadnought. A ship 3 kilometers long, bristling with weaponry that incorporated technology from a dozen species, all modified, improved, and weaponized in ways that made standard military doctrine obsolete. You bought yourselves time, Zirthal said, all filtering through the translation matrix. The Terran Defiance. They knew they were holding the line long enough for your fleet to position itself. Captain Morrison and her crew volunteered, Evan said softly. 37 souls who decided that humanity's survival was worth more than their own lives. We name our ships after human ideals. Counselor, Defiance, Last Stand, Hope, because those are the things we refuse to surrender. The battle that followed would be analyzed by military strategists for generations. The human fleet fought with a ferocity that shocked the Deathworld Alliance, species who'd thought themselves the toughest in the galaxy. They used tactics that bordered on insane, sacrificing individual ships to protect others, coordinating attacks with a precision that suggested hive-mind intelligence, but came purely from training and trust. And at the center of it all, the Last Stand tore through the Krethax lines like a knife through tissue. When the battle ended, the Krethax fleet was in full retreat, leaving behind nearly half their number as debris. The human fleet had taken casualties, significant ones, but they'd held. More importantly, they'd won. Hannah found Evan on the observation deck hours later, staring out at the debris field. In the distance, a single human ship limped through the wreckage. The Terran Defiance impossibly had survived. Your species is terrifying, she said quietly, joining him at the viewport. We're from a death world, Evan replied. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years. It taught us that survival isn't about being the strongest or the fastest. It's about refusing to give up even when logic says you should. He turned to face her. The galaxy is going to have to get used to that. Hannah nodded slowly, understanding dawning. The Deathworld Alliance. We're going to petition for Earth's membership, aren't we? Evan's smile was genuine this time. We'd be honored. But understand this, we don't join anything halfway. If we're part of the Alliance, we'll defend every member world like it's Earth itself. Looking out at the battle-scarred human fleet regrouping in the darkness of space, Hannah believed him. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not with words but with action. They'd faced annihilation and spat in its face. The Deathworld species had found their equals. Perhaps, Hannah thought with a mixture of trepidation and excitement, they'd found something more, they'd found humanity.